from the Workplace Ninja Summit in Baden. Smart talks, sharp insights, and stories worth sharing. This is the Workplace Ninja Podcast.
Good morning. Back on day 4 on the Workplace Ninja Summit 2025 here in Baden. My name is Frans Oudendorp, and this time co-hosted by this. I think the speakers from last recording that we did.
We are back. Definitely.
So Joost and Rudy, you're helping me with the difficult questions. So because we have the most technical interview session of these 4 days probably.
So we're talking about sports and games then?
Okay, let's do that.
Forza Barca.
Yeah. And we have some Microsoft folks on the table, Albert and Diwakar. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's start with a short intro. Who you are, what are you doing? Diwakar.
All right, I can go first. So my name is Diwakar Farwaha. I work for Microsoft. Been with Microsoft over 17 years now. I am a director of engineering for Intune, primarily responsible for infra. So you hear about Intune gateways, you hear about Intune agents, you hear about grouping and targeting. That's all the infrastructure that my team builds and manages. Been with Intune for over 10 years now. I'm very excited to be here.
So if you have an issue with that, we need to contact them.
Oh yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we don't have the technical assistance session.
Oh yeah, that's true.
It's an AMA. We had the AMA, so you can
No
ask
technical
everything,
support.
and not technical
I
support.
thought you were gonna say we don't have any issues. Okay.
Now let's talk
It
about
does.
that.
Okay, let's not get there.
Albert?
So my name is Albert Cabello. I'm a principal product manager on the core PM team. So I'm basically Diwakar's partner in crime for the infra scale, all those type of things.
Indeed.
So let's have a look at the session and the topics that you have covered. What was the main message in the session that you want to give attendees away?
Yeah, I think I know our team was here last year, and we have been to several other forums where we have heard very clear feedback from customers, especially that we need to be better at our latency. Our speed of delivering payloads to devices, what we call as remediation latency, has to be better. It has to be consistent, and we have to provide the needed transparency. For the past year, there has been a lot of work done in that space. So we were here talking about what we have discovered, what we have fixed and improved, and what the roadmap is. So we were happy to share that with the customers.
And being transparent about how Microsoft is evolving, how Microsoft is improving things, and you showing that to the audience and to the public, that's, in my opinion, the important part. Because I want to hear it, Joost wants to hear it, Frans wants to hear it, the whole IT community wants to know more details, and I believe everyone loves technical deep dive sessions. At least I do. And looking at
not
the feedback,
everyone is a Rudy.
No, but looking at the feedback we got from our session,
Yeah.
we want more technical deep dives. We want more these kind of sessions when it's funny and you're providing all the technical deep dives that everyone doesn't know, because most of it is not public information.
Certainly.
In my opinion, it's good that Microsoft is showing what kind of investments they are doing in the back end, and showing what they're doing, because the people who are here are responsible for explaining their customers why things are happening the way they are happening right now in Albert, and they told it how they told it, and now we can take it back to our customers and tell them they're going to change things up. And we told them, I think it was 2 years ago, explain more what you're doing in the back end. Be proud of what you're doing, because it's something big. Are we already saying the name, what we're talking about? It's more the MMPC stuff.
It was a funny session with Pinky and Sangi just sitting there and smiling.
I think, and that's the good thing, why it's being discussed on this stage, and they're allowed to tell about it. And
how difficult is it before we dive into some technical topics, how difficult is it to share what you're doing, what is behind the curtains, without giving too much information to competitors, for example?
I think it's related to security, right? Security first initiative, don't tell every single detail that maybe can be abused, used. I think
I'm a believer in transparency. So
Yeah.
I think we need to provide you with the information that you need in order to do your job. Perhaps we're not doing quite well enough, and like us attending events like this, it's our way of getting a feel for it and figuring out, what's the right level of detail for the audience, so that then we can come back, improve our docs. Traditionally, it's not something that we've been feeling comfortable with, and perhaps it was even because of what we were discussing during the session, right? Traditionally, it's been a very engineering-driven effort infrastructure, and like how many documents at Microsoft are written by engineers.
And if I may add, we had this very interesting conversation yesterday with a few customers. We were talking about the same thing, right? Transparency on progress. And the feedback was, look, little things matter. So when you make even little progress, show it.
let
right?
us know. Yeah.
Right. And what we realized was oftentimes our intention of putting information out there is to help. So we want to make sure that
Best intentions, yeah.
it's doing more help than harming customers. So the accuracy matters, and the intent of why we are doing certain things matters. So it's a feedback that we take very seriously. We'll take it back to the team and make sure that we start to provide that information back.
Hey, shameless plug. I'm the PM for the Intune Management Extension as well.
I know.
I created the docs for Intune Management Extension. If you've seen improvements on those docs, that's us working to make those things better. I attended some of the sessions that were talking about troubleshooting, so I'm taking that feedback back to see, again, what is it where we are not hitting the mark, so that we can do better. You're absolutely right. Like, there is a point in the documentation or the transparency where things can go south, whether it is to abuse the system or to see if there is like some hole that can be, and like that's also something that we consider.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
Nice. I asked Rudy in the previous recording, I asked Rudy the same question. What makes Microsoft moving to MMPC instead of Home ADM?
That's a great question. You're asking why?
Yeah.
Well, I think Rudy did an excellent job explaining why. So I'll probably repeat what he said.
Every single word?
Maybe not every single word, because I don't remember that by heart, but I'll try. I think the new protocol, as Rudy mentioned, is really meant to scale, and meant to scale well. If you look at the legacy protocol, it's very interactive, it's very chatty, right? And we talk about 10 to 14 round trips between the client and the server to complete a session. And if you saw the Intune architecture, at least the high-level view yesterday, device check-in or gateway is not a monolithic service. So even for it to process that session, it has to interact with several, I would say about 30 plus services. Now imagine on every single round trip you having to do that and you having to maintain the session increases the cost, right? And which is a scale challenge often. And while we're doing a lot of optimizations and improvements, the value proposition of a lightweight protocol that moves some of these capabilities over to the client, where you just be declarative, pushed on the documents and let the client process it asynchronously. Yeah. I think that's the right model to be. And which is why you see that many new features in Intune that are lighting up, whether it's EPM or inventory, are built on top of that stack.
And how easy is it, if I'm a sysadmin, how easy is it for me to transfer into MMPC instead of using OMADM? Is that done automatically on your side? Do I need to do stuff?
One of the reasons why you don't get to hear a lot about it is because we want this to be a very seamless transition. But we have to keep in mind the immense effort that is needed for us to be seamless and do it without any change in customer experience, except for the value add that you see after the fact. And if I was to just give a simple example, like imagine you authoring these policies to manage settings on the devices. Imagine the number of settings that we manage, thousands of settings, right? Multiply that with the number of policy objects that you create,
and
multiply
those
that.
all need to be tested.
They all need to be
beforehand.
tested, and we want to be able to do a transition in a safe way, assuming one setting granularity at a time. You also have to think about the interdependencies between settings, so it's not an easy thing. And that process takes time for us to make sure that we have the foundational support to be able to move things or switch between one protocol to the other at that granularity, and do it at one profile or policy at a time.
And also all the requirements need to be in place, so all devices need to have a linked dual enrollment on forehand.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, those policies will not come down.
Correct.
And we need to do all that while continue providing the service. Like, it's not that we can close shop for a weekend
Right.
and say, hey,
Right.
like, come back later. We're doing
See
this
you next
migration.
week.
Like, we have to serve the hundreds of millions of devices.
That should be funny. Close the shop for a week and then
Yeah.
When you come back, everything
Yeah.
is transferred.
Well, I mean, if it was a week that was needed to close the shop, maybe I would consider it, but it's going to take much longer.
Yeah.
And like in the session yesterday, when we talked about all the investments that have happened and are going on outside of MMPC, they are going to provide value irrespective of the management protocol that you're using, because they're all on the server side making, like Rudy made a point, I'll be very quick here. Rudy made a point in his session saying, oh, well, with MMPC, you get to have check-ins every 3 to 4 hours compared to MDM, which is 8 hours. But even 3 hours is not efficient, right?
No.
So that's why we want to move away from this polling infrastructure and move more towards push.
Yeah.
Making notifications reliable is the way.
Diwakar, why is pushing better than pulling?
Oh, well, if you want to now really start to geek it out,
Yeah.
then, well, based on our usage, our traffic patterns that we talked about yesterday, there are two fundamental things that were the takeaways from the session. One, we have these sharp spikes during peak hours when all these devices turn on and users log in, and there's a lot of traffic coming in, right? Second, a lot of that traffic is non-operational. It is noise in the system. And in order for us to scale in a way that we prioritize the things that matter, we don't want to rely only on that 1 hour where all the devices start to connect. These devices are operational throughout the day, and as and when the changes are ready, we want to make sure that we are pushing those down. Correct. So.
any other I wasn't in the session. I wasn't able. I must do stuff over here. But Joost,
That was the crux, by the way, of the sessions.
Yeah. MMPC is just a small part of all the investments what are going on. So, and that was more the first step in the session. We've seen a lot of other steps what they're going to do. Don't know if we're allowed to talk about, but
I can share some.
the push situation is going to be awesome. That would be the next step, because the device is going on. Maybe the user is turning it off in 5 seconds later because they only have to check their email for 5 minutes. That's not enough time to push down all the stuff they needed. So if it's taking a longer time, they're only going to push it when it's ready, and that would be a next step. And
But still, maybe just a little bit NDA, but the Windows team, the moment the push notification arrives on the device, there is for now still a 5-minute delay in the push notification asking the device to check in. I know that will be taken care of, but still that 5 minutes is too much, in my opinion.
I'll have to go back and look at that. Like in my experience, I do know that there are instant notifications that are delivered and device initiates a check-in, but I also know that there are perhaps certain mechanisms on the device where if it's receiving a lot of notification, it tries to aggregate things. One of the things that we are looking into, and again, no promises here, what we're looking into is to see if we can have, as Intune, a final control over how we initiate these check-ins when devices receive notification, and perhaps that would be a way for us to expedite.
It's the whole notion that not all check-ins are equally important, right? Like
and the first day, all the push notifications, they are pretty quick. After 8 hours, that drops down because a schedule is put in place to ensure that every push notification that will be sent to the device has a delay of 5 minutes. And so that's why for a lot of people, in my opinion, the first day can feel pretty fast, and the next day it feels slower because there is at least a 5-minute delay before the device checks in.
Yeah.
If a push notification is sent.
Independent of the gateway, I think eventually we want to get to a point where Intune has the intelligence in the system, so that the things that need to be fast are fast, the things that need to be critically fast are critically fast, and things that can wait a little, and that way we offer you a consistent experience.
Yeah.
Throughout.
And like I'll just say one thing. You again highlighted the need for transparency.
Yeah.
Knowing how clients are listening to these notifications and then deciding when to initiate a check-in, it's important to be documented so that the transparency comes through that, and that also addresses some of the consistency concerns.
And that explains why I do things, because I know why that 5-minute delay is in place.
Right.
But that's not documented wherever.
Right.
And if you're going to explain a customer that is using EPM with support approval, how is Microsoft going to explain to them, oh, I approved an application and it takes like 5 or 6 minutes before it shows up. Well, on the first day it arrives the same second. And that's why transparency, showing why it's there, in my opinion, that's the most important part.
Point. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, no, I've still got a question. But Albert, when you're talking about high priority, lower priority, is there an example what we can see what it would be a higher one who's going to be sent to the device sooner than the other one?
I always say the example of if a device gets stolen and needs to be wiped, I don't want that notification getting lost. I don't want that check-in getting retried. Like that's the type of thing where 5-minute delay make a difference. So that would be an example of critical. Another example for me of critical is like a newly enrolled device, like anything where a user is going to be staring at the machine, blocked, not being able to do work because something needs to happen. To me, it's kind of like on the high/critical category.
Yeah,
and it's fundamentally productivity, compliance, right? These are the two things we look at. As fast as we can make a device compliant and secure, and as fast as we can make it productive, is how we determine
Could there be also a switch for an admin to say this one is high priority because of the change they want to do, or do you think?
That's a great question. Where would you have that switch? What controls would you put on that switch?
I was thinking the same thing.
How many times would you be able to use that switch?
Yeah, it's a good question. But when I have to change a security feature, because I need to do something with bio or NEN stuff, and it needs to be fast on all our devices.
You just want to have a button on the bottom. I want it right now.
No, I want to tell the system this is a high priority one, and you have to figure out if it's possible to send the high priority one. But it could be nice. But you only can do it twice a month or something. But because everyone is going to do it in high priority, it's not going to work at all.
So I'll answer in a couple of ways. One is that's definitely something that we're thinking about. And by thinking about, I mean we haven't developed an opinion one way or the other. Second, I think there is also an aspect here of transparency. You have a set of resources that can be used at any time, right? Notifications and check-ins. And I think there is an aspect of transparency of how those resources are being used. Because, of course, you might be having something that is lower priority, that is taking all your capacity, and then like the thing that you care more is not getting through. So I think there is an aspect of knowing, how resources are being used. And then there is that question of where is that control? How does it look like? Who has access to it? I definitely believe that there is that corner case of, once every while break glass scenario, and that's something that I care a lot. And I think I also care a lot about. There are things that genuinely are not that important to you in the sense that it's okay if they wait a little to be remediated, and if that makes other things that are that you care more faster, I think that's a plus for everyone. The shape that will take, I think it's undecided at this point. But Diwakar?
I'll add one thing to it. And by the way, this question, I feel like Albert paid you $5 to ask that question because he asks me all the time.
There's another question that I ask you all the time that might come up later.
We won't get to that here. So I think another way to look at this is what we talked about in session yesterday. One of the things that we want to prioritize you can call it high if not critical, is server-side changes. And the example that you were giving is a server-initiated change, an IT admin coming in and making a change, right? So because it qualifies under that umbrella, that is something that we would prioritize. The question that we ask ourselves is how large the change can be, right? Saying that every server-side change has to be considered critical or high also means that if we have a lot of changes coming into the system with a lot of churn, how do we make sure that all of those are being processed? So there has to be certain parameters or certain thresholds that we set around it. That's something that we are actively discussing and would love to have some offline conversations on that as well. But once we provide an experience around that, there would perhaps not be a need for an ID admin to say, please prioritize this, as long as it meets certain thresholds and we provide transparency on what those thresholds are. Things should be faster, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
I got some ideas, and then an admin doesn't have to do anything, but let's take it offline.
Let me just do one more thing.
Oh, this is
riffing
the question?
Riffing on what Diwakar was saying, like let's differentiate on like a single device versus whatever number of devices. Right? Like anything that a user is doing that is blocking their device, or an admin is doing troubleshooting what device, that definitely should be fast always. Because again, it's the type of example of someone is staring at the computer waiting for something to happen. I think there is a different class or category, which is like, hey, like I have this large, whatever you're thinking of large is, large change that I need to deploy to a number of devices. And I think we're factoring into it as well.
I love it. Within your session, talking about infrastructure, was there something about app and content delivery? Basically, you're doing the Win32 stuff. What was in it? Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Here's how I will answer that question. We talked a lot about the fast lane. We talked about a lot about we want to move from pull to push. That involves gateways, involves payloads, involves platforms. That's one example of payload and gateway and platform that needs to be onboarded onto this push model. So from a priority perspective, if you wish, we started with MDM channel and policies because that's where we are seeing like the most latency and the most pain. But like definitely we hear the feedback on apps, and it's just a matter of like sequencing of the work. All the work that we were discussing yesterday on the session, it's equally applicable to apps once we get to it.
And onion peeling is the wrong analogy here, because we started with the innermost layer and we are just going one stack up, right? So what we are doing right now is improving the foundational layer, and that's where the gateways and notifications and everything comes into play. And then the layers on top, like Albert said, are the payloads, the policies and the apps. That's what we are starting to look at now. There's not much to share at this point in time, but I think the message Albert wanted to deliver yesterday was we got the feedback that the effort has to keep on, and we're just moving from one layer to the other and then to the next.
Can we say that you guys are rebuilding Intune from the ground up? See what was happening in the past, and now what's coming on in the future, that we can say it's an easier explanation. Are you rebuilding Intune? But it's more than that. It's. But I think what I'm hearing the last couple of 2 years, I think you're rebuilding it from ground up. Everything what was, I don't want to say wrong, but what was not happy enough.
So if they are rebuilding Intune, does that mean we also have going to get one agent instead of sidecar, device inventory, and every other agent that's being used right now?
It's a tough question. So here's what I would say.
That's why I asked it.
So one thing that I tried to set up the stage yesterday on the session was, look, like the challenges of today, the challenges of tomorrow. Like you heard Jason talking about like copilots and AI and like agents doing changes. Like those challenges are very different than the challenges of like 10 years ago. Now, does that require a full redesign from the ground up? No, like I think it requires certain pieces being changed in certain ways so that, we were going through that path and now we're going through this path. The best example is we mostly were relying on those maintenance check-ins, that polling as the primary mechanism, if you wish, because there was a world back in the day where, you only had so many workloads moved into Intune, right? And you were using Config Manager as your main tool, and now we're moving more towards that we're going to be push-based. I think there are other pieces of the system that just because of the massive scale, you could say that they're being rewritten, or that we're again, like technology changes, like our own infrastructure, underlying infrastructure dependencies change. There are like new technologies, right? So like we want to take advantage of those technologies. So one of those areas would be, for example, reporting, where like the reporting stack that we had, now there are so much better technologies, more scalable technology. And like, again, I'm not sure I would use the word rewrite from the rundown, but like taking advantage of the best technologies that are available on the places where it matters, that's absolutely something that we're consistently doing.
Very rightly said. I think rebuilding seems to suggest that what exists doesn't work. And like Albert said, technologies evolve over time, and we're trying to leverage what we think we can to the best of our ability, and there are perhaps components that needs to be rewritten, and if needed we would do that, but then there are a lot of other places where just integrating the newer technologies into it would make it more efficient, and that's always been the process. We want to make sure that while we have investments that pay us in the long run, we also want to make sure that we are sort of moving the needle on how we improve the experience today. We cannot do that if we were to rebuild everything, right? So it has to be very strategic, it has to be tactical, and that's the approach that we are taking. And a lot of goodness that you saw, hopefully you saw yesterday, came through not having to rebuild things. It's to plug the holes wherever possible. It's to understand the system better, how it has evolved over time, and just make it more efficient. Improving.
I really love this conversation. Like, I need to be in that
we
session.
We can keep it going for hours.
Yeah, I think
you
I
did
think
not attend our session. Bad boy you are.
Yeah, I know. But and then the sad thing, it's not recorded, so I cannot rewatch it.
Come next year.
Yeah, definitely, but then I will probably on the same table as well. So we need to collaborate a bit on that to have the conversation afterwards again. But Albert, has also some questions, and are they already asked, or is there some question that you want to throw in?
Oh, I have a question for Rudy and Joe. Like, is there something that you guys are going to change on your presentation next year based on what you hear from us this year? Is there something that you are like this changes the equation?
I was already thinking to change my slides a little bit because I did a lot of stuff also on the Windows notification service and how it works, but I never implemented it in a session. So if I can add the push notification stuff inside the session me and Joost did on Monday, Tuesday. To make the whole picture complete, yes. Because in my opinion, push notification and how it works, I did a session at MMS MOA about how the push notification is sent over, but somehow it didn't end up in this one.
That's the thing that would make me the most happy. Like in a couple sessions, there were references to things happen every 8 hours, and you asked before, what's the key takeaway? The key takeaway is we are transforming the Intune system so that is not a thing. So that is kind of like the catch-all worst case scenario. We really don't want to get there type of thing. We want to move towards and similarly, we're talking about the sync button, sync. Like we want to get to a point
why
where
I mentioned the sync button, because
sync button works, and it works because of all the infrastructure improvements that we've been working on. So thank you, sir.
What's one thing that would actually be nice to have more insights in the Windows push notifications on the device itself, because it's even you called it a black box.
Did you like that slide?
Yeah, because it's a black box, because no one knows what's happening behind the scenes the moment you press the wipe command. I know what's happening until it goes to the Windows notification service, and the Windows notification is going to ask the device to wake up or do something to check in. But everything in that black box, I don't know what's happening. The only thing I've built right now is a tool that just notifies me when a push notification is coming down to the device, so I know when it's happening. But I'm not sure what's in it, because the Windows notification database on the device it's not readable. It's a black box. So,
Do you want to take a crack at it, or do you want
I
to?
was just gonna say, you're right. Albert and I know that the black box needs to be demystified, and we are looking into it.
That will be very nice and very helpful to help IT admins understand what's happening on the device, especially when your focus is on the push notification, which I get because that's the way to check in.
Certainly.
Give transparency how it works and how if the push notification is indeed a wipe on the device, because a wipe command, even now on Reddit, I was reading it this morning and I was tagged in a conversation, why is my wipe taking 30 minutes to at least start wiping, which shouldn't happen. How am I going to troubleshoot that?
So, for the listeners, Intune relies on platform-specific notification services. So, for Apple devices, for Google devices, for Windows devices, we rely on platform notification services that are provided by those providers. And we cannot give you much visibility into what happens with those notifications because those providers do not give us that visibility. And we're talking mostly about Windows because it's obviously closer to our hand. But like those are problems that exist with Apple and Google. Those are asks that we have of Apple and Google as well. And I could argue like, those are challenges that need to be solved holistically. And unfortunately, right now, like we don't have anything that we can say on any of those platforms other than like the ask is there.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing that you take away from the session of Albert and Diwakar? Is that the transparency that they want to share? Is that some?
I think that's that's a conclusion.
And we see they're showing stuff that they're moving, evolving, taking care of our devices. Yeah, and doing a lot of investments.
If I look at the updates that are coming through every month, every single release, I'm hosting that kind of sessions together with Peter every month. And if I look not only at Entra Defender but also at Intune, what is coming through every month, the investments that are done not only within Windows, within the infrastructure, but also on Mac and on all the other stuff. So the teams are doing a great job there.
We got quite a few customers reaching to us and saying like, oh, things have gotten so much better in the last 6 months, like we feel it. And like we see that through our internal telemetry, but again, like I care about the one case where an important notification got lost.
Yep.
It's difficult to talk about these things because again, it's like it's a feeling sometimes. There are so many things that can affect whether something is slow or fast, whether it is under Intune's control, your user's control. So us coming here is our way to, again, we want to try and be more transparent, see what works, and to take this back, improve the docs, and like just keep iterating. That's a Microsoft thing. Like, we're gonna keep trying until we get it right.
One last question. What's one myth about Intune that you'd like to retire?
I mean,
is that the GIF I showed?
I think we just discussed the 8 hour refresh time is just one of those myths. Like if you give me more time, I'll think about some other, but like that's
not
the one.
The S in Intune stands for speed, because a lot of people I know from Microsoft are like, nah, that's a bad quote.
We'll get there to a point where that S means something else.
Yeah, and then you'll have to figure out how to fit it into Intune in your next slide.
I will figure something out.
So, challenge accepted for Rudy. Okay, thank you guys for joining and having this conversation. Thanks Rudy, Joost, for helping me with these kind of things.
No problem.
And Albert, Diwakar, many thanks to show up and be here.
Yeah, thank you to all of you. This has been such a great opportunity, being here and talking to all of you. Unfortunately, we couldn't do a Q&A in our session. We got so passionate about the technical side of things that we just ran out of time. But the listeners, if you do want to connect with us, reach us on LinkedIn, and we would love to talk more. Our email information is also out there. Connect with us. we would like to talk to all of you, and as we're promising, we would make sure to document these things better and spread the word.
I have an idea for next year, so to have this community stage and this recording together, so we can have public that asking questions and doing this kind of things more.
The whole morning.
Yeah, probably. So let's see if we can make that investment into the eval tomorrow.
I appreciate the heads up.
He's not coming.
Let's do that. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening and viewing. The next recording is about Entra ID security, and I will do that together with Morten and Sergey. That's up for the next one. But before we have a fresh community stage session about ARM for the modern workplace. So have a look on that. Keep an eye on our social media channels. Thank you for watching. Until the next time.
Thanks for joining the Workplace Ninja podcast. Stay curious, stay connected, and keep sharpening your ninja skills. Until next time.